officially live. So bear with me 1 second, guys. And I'm going to go ahead and send Crypto Airborne a message asking him to tweet this out. For those of you guys that just tuned in here, we are just having some brief technical difficulties. We have moved the hashing it out episode over to my YouTube channel. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so I just sent out a tweet just kind of letting everybody know that we moved the Hashing It Out episode over to my YouTube channel. So there is a link for people to redirect to this channel as well.
Perfect. All right. Well, yeah, I just responded to the Nervos Twitter as well. Okay. Oh, and there's that. All right. Let me retweet that. Oh, and I see. Oh, there's already a bunch of chat going here. Oh, this is different. This is different. We're used to Twitter Spaces where we can't actually see any chat, and that's not
sure.
that's actually not the best way to handle things because we have much less visibility into what the audience is actually thinking. I like this better. Maybe we should consider moving it off Twitter Spaces if they can't figure this stuff out.
Sure.
But anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and get started here. I guess I should probably just introduce this like this was on our normal Twitter Spaces. So yeah, welcome everybody to Hashing It Out, where we talk about everything Nervos, everything crypto, and today everything Thanksgiving. We're doing this from Six Figs channel today because we couldn't get into the Nervos account. Everybody is off because it is Thanksgiving, and we were just completely locked out of it. We actually had some people try to get into it from their Taylor from his Airbnb in Mexico, which is not his usual location, and it started giving it. I guess he flagged the Twitter security on the account, and we were just completely unable to get into it. So this is going to be a little bit of an interesting episode. It's going to be a little bit different, but yeah, let's go ahead and just keep moving through it, and hopefully Taylor will be able to join us. He was mentioning that his internet connection was not working well at all. Yeah, so Six Figs, thank you for allowing us to broadcast this from your YouTube account.
My pleasure. I'm happy to have everyone here. I'm
All right.
glad it worked out.
Yeah, so let's see. So starting just at the top here, we want to recognize our community here. And so our community spotlight for today is Nikon CKB, who is also known as CKB Samurai on Twitter. He's been a great leader in our community, and he's done some fantastic efforts to create user driven content, community driven content, so like infographics and videos, which you guys may have seen floating around. That is completely his effort. We had nothing to do with that really. And so if some of it's a little bit wrong, don't be too surprised because that is a community driven effort, but it is absolutely top notch. Like it's we've been really happy to have him in our community helping out with this kind of stuff, because quite frankly, it is overwhelming for us at the foundation to try to get this done. And it's really the efforts of the community here that are going to make this project successful. So Neon, we definitely are absolutely thrilled to have you in the community. Thank you for all your efforts, and everybody, make sure you check out his Twitter account, CKB Samurai, if you are not subscribed to it already. So yeah, we have definitely a couple things here that we want to talk about today, but it is Thanksgiving, and so it's a pretty slim team today here. I know that Amir is on the call. Amir, how you doing today?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm relaxed here. I was a little bit nervous when we couldn't get into the Twitter stream, but I'm doing okay. And then Six Figs, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's a great day. So I'm very
Great.
excited to be here and eat some good food later on.
Yeah, me as well. I can't wait to get started on that stuff too. So let's quickly go in here, since we are running way late today. We'll probably go a little bit beyond our normal time, but yeah, we got to get started here. We have a couple things on Nervos that we want to bring up first. The first here is, you guys may have seen Matt Quinn from the Nervos Foundation. He put out a tweet a couple days ago about the Taproot lock proof of concept that was released. And for you guys who are not familiar, Bitcoin released something called the Taproot upgrade, which is a big deal in their community. That's a soft fork that's been 4 years in the making for them. That includes certain functionality that is really, really beneficial to the Bitcoin community. That's like Shor signatures and Merkleized abstract syntax trees. You guys, am I making any sense to you guys? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
To
for
some
me,
degree,
it's
yeah.
it's kind of a like a foreign language to me. So, but I do enjoy reading about this stuff. Also, in
Yes.
addition, I did just add Taylor to the stream as well.
Oh, awesome. Taylor, are you here? Okay, maybe not. We don't hear you yet, Taylor, but hopefully you can jump in, jump in whenever you're able to. Check your mic settings. Yeah, so Taproot, anyway, it added the Schnorr signatures and Merkleized abstract syntax trees, which basically translates into new encryption and enhanced smart contracts for Bitcoin. It also helps with privacy, storage optimization. It's all good stuff. Now, what's important here is that this was 4 years in the making. And it required a soft fork to do that, which, debatable on how serious a soft fork is versus a hard fork, but in my opinion, they're kind of the same thing. Big deal. So one of our developers actually took a look at the Taproot upgrades that was being done in Bitcoin, and he created something called the Taproot lock for Nervos, which is basically that same exact functionality. And he was able to do this in a month, which is a really interesting thing. And he was able to do it without any kind of forking at all. Uh, this is part of the power we're talking about, of the flexibility of the platform that we're always talking about, is this kind of stuff. This was able to be implemented by just a normal developer doing normal smart contracts, and he was able to do it that quickly. Now, I don't want to say that these two are absolutely equal in quality. Of course, one was scrutinized heavily for 4 years by some of the best developers in the world, right? And one was done very quickly in a month. It's not going to be the exact same thing here, but the real point is that it was able to be done much quicker, and it was able to be done without consensus of an entire community to roll it out. It could have been done at a developer level, right? So this is something that could really help Nervos to push forward quicker than other things in the ecosystem in the future. So what do you guys think? Any comments on that?
I mean, that's pretty exciting. The fact that something like that can be implemented, so quickly. Whenever I have conversations about our platform and what we do, I think I think slowly going into next year, people are going to really start to see just what is possible, given the type of structure of the chain itself. So it's pretty cool, that someone can kind of on their own, spin up something like that. And I'm sure we're going to see more of that going into next year for sure. as more and more tools are available.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the entire point. I mean, is that innovation and technology is really done. It's about competition. It's about speed for the most part, right? When you talk about, especially in the cryptocurrency industry, where everything is open source for the most part, like anybody can take the source code and they can implement it there in a different chain, right? We can all share code. That's one of the benefits of it. That's how we keep it decentralized to some extent, is that everybody is able to continuously utilize everything. And just when you talk, even with closed source software, really, if you really look at it, every piece of software in existence today could be programmed by somebody else in the future. Like there's nothing that only one programmer in the world could possibly pull that off. That doesn't exist, right? Everybody could group together, and over a long period of time, like I believe like Microsoft Windows is millions and millions of lines of code. Yeah, that would take a very long time to replicate, but it could be replicated, and that's the point. So everything in technology is to some extent a little bit of a race at the end. So when you're looking at cryptocurrency in particular, you're kind of looking at which one is the one that's going to be winning the race in the future, right? And that's where I particularly believe that Nervos has that distinct advantage here in being able to adopt to changes, adopt to things in the future, which we can't absolutely can't predict right now. Okay,
Yeah, that
so
was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
go
Oh,
ahead,
okay.
Patrick.
I was going to say, yeah, I remember when Matt Quinn put out that tweet, and I just remember thinking to myself, wow, this is amazing. And to me, for me, I'm not the most techie, person when it comes to all this coding stuff, but I could just recognize, the significance of of uh, of that tweet, and just definitely made me feel good about Nervous Network, and then and its flexibility, like you said, is just awesome.
Yeah, because we mention the flexibility of the platform a lot, but it's sometimes hard to really quantify that and show people why does this actually matter, right? And so this Taproot and a proof of concept is a good example of that. It's something that we hope that other communities will take note of, because we're really showing here that this is a major differentiating factor. This is something where if you're a developer especially a super deep developer that was interested in something like Taproot, you didn't have to wait on another platform. You didn't have to wait that 4 years, right? You could have just started messing with that tomorrow if you wanted to on Nervos. And that's really one of the things that gets me excited about it. But let's keep moving on here, because we do have a couple other things we want to talk about in regards to Nervos. And the next one is the Cardano bridge. Now, I put this in here as a topic I wanted to discuss because we get asked about this all the time in our Discord channel, and we never really have any thrilling updates about it. And guess what, guys, we don't have a thrilling update today, sorry, but I just wanted to point out one little thing here that I did see is like, so we're trying to make that process much more transparent, because we realize that this has been something that like the first version was supposed to be done months ago, and it's obviously it's not done, it's still ongoing. And part of that was we had a different developer involved. Things did not go as expected. There was a bunch of overages. I'm not saying it was anybody's fault, but it didn't turn out. The first version of the bridge did not turn out like we wanted it to. And we needed to up the quality on that and up the functionality. So they pretty much scrapped, I think, the first version, at least most of it, and they decided to do it a new version of it. And this was also, we got to remember that the first version of Force Bridge was started before smart contracts were available on mainnet on Cardano. And so there was definitely limitations that we were working with. And after they did that release, they finally got the release out for that. That kind of opened up a little bit more possibilities on how we could implement things. So they had to reinvestigate that. But Matt Quinn, he put out an update just a couple days ago, and there's one line in there that was a little bit important to me. He says the minting of native tokens onto Cardano, which is something that he mentioned because to me this shows me that the scope of the original bridge has been exceeded now. When the first bridge design was coming out, yeah, it was actually supposed to do ADA tokens on Nervos only. But the new bridge design sounds like it's going to be bi-directional here. So they basically went from phase 1 and they moved it into phase 2. Like, it hasn't been officially stated here, but that's what I'm seeing here, is that they're actually they completely skipped over their original phase 1 and they're adding additional functionality here. So once this does come out, this is great because it's going to be a little bit more than we had originally hoped for in the first version.
So does that I guess could you I guess expand a little bit more on the bi-directional functionality of that, or like what that entails? Because is that something that are there any other platforms or bridges that even function that way?
Yeah. I mean, like, really, what I'm talking about there is that a lot of times these things have to come in various phases. Like, for example, with Ethereum, it is, I'm not even technically sure what if bi-directional is the right term to use, because our bridge with Ethereum is bi-directional right now, but it only supports assets originating in one place, in one direction. You can take tokens from Ethereum and it can bring it over to Nervos, tokens that originated in Ethereum. But
Right.
tokens that originate in Nervos can't yet go to Ethereum. So, I mean, that's definitely something that's going to happen, and probably not too long from now it's going to happen. But it sounds here like with the Cardano bridge, that limitation is not in place. Like, they've decided to go all the way to the next phase here, because it specifically says minting of native tokens on Cardano, which to me means they're taking tokens from Nervos and putting them on Cardano. And it's really not too big of a surprise that they wanted to do that, because that's been a big purpose of the bridge here, was to provide liquidity to Cardano. That's why we had part of this partnership in place. They want that. They absolutely want that liquidity streamed to them. So the ability to mint tokens on Cardano is essential to that.
Yeah, I mean, bridges are going to be pretty key, I feel like, moving into the next, like, what, 5 or 10 years. And yeah, I mean, we have the infrastructure for it, so that's exciting to hear.
Yeah, definitely, definitely exciting stuff to see this stuff finally rolling out after all this time, and making some serious progress. Because yeah, the bridges just in general have been something that's been talked about just in the industry for a very long time. I mean, it's not something that was brand new right now. I mean, I remember the last of bull market, and actually prior to the bull market, they were talking about these bridges and making it sound like they were about to come out. And then, of course, 3 years went by, and that's when they finally started coming out. I mean, Sixfig, have you heard anything like that? I mean, have you been waiting for these bridges for a while?
Yeah, I mean, just from the general community standpoint, definitely something very important. Obviously, the Forest Bridge is, I think, what a lot of people are waiting for and are excited about. I think there is some common ground between the Cardano supporters and the Nervous Network supporters, just with that whole UTXO alliance thing. So I do think that everybody that's into Nervos is definitely excited for that. For
Sure.
that bridge for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a big step for us, and a big step with our partnership with Cardano as well. So let's keep moving on here, though, because we're going to run out of time otherwise. Yokai swap. We got to mention Yokai swap, because this is, everybody was jumping up and down for this, and boy, there were some interesting conversations that came after various news started leaking, and especially after my speaking on your channel, Sixfig. I got some people who had taken my words and really scrutinized it at a level, and looked a little bit too deep, started seeing things that I didn't actually say. um, and that was before the actual launch date came out. So I'm very happy that the launch date has finally been announced, and that they've also announced the IDO. That's coming up really soon, everybody. That's on November 30th at noon UTC, and it goes for 24 hours only till December 1st till 12 noon UTC. And that's the IDO, that's the initial DEX offering where they are selling the first Yoke tokens, I guess. YOK is the symbol there. And that's interesting. I'm not fully, I haven't actually done too much of this DeFi stuff. Like, have you, either of you, are you really big into these farming type things? Do you know exactly what the YOK token will be used for?
I am. I know typically on most platforms, they're used to stake, and basically people that own the token and stake on the DEX, they're able to accrue fees, or get like a very small percentage of fees from the DEX itself, and that it kind of works similarly to how um, when users also add to liquidity pools. So it's somewhat similar, but it's specific to the DEX and the token. But you could also kind of think of it as like I guess like a value investment on, believing in the platform, if you will. Especially if, the goal is like to get as much TVL in the DEX itself as possible, because just there's a lot of value. That means there's a lot of liquidity, all those things. But I'm pretty excited. I mean, I'd use a few of these DEXs and things across the board. I mean, especially as someone who was kind of moving through the fog in like 2017 and trying to figure out where to get tokens. And even now there's always an issue of where a token might be listed. Using DEXs have been pretty key, and I think Yokai's UI looks really good, especially compared to other DEXs and honestly all the ecosystems, Avalanche, Ethereum, all that. So I know a lot of people are definitely going to be excited because it looks usable. It is usable. It'll be an opportunity for people to like have that chance to trade into other tokens. They'll be able to use Force Bridge for that as well. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Cool. Six Fig, did we lose you? I think we just might have lost Six Fig from the stream. Well,
Oh
hopefully
no,
he'll
did
be.
we?
Well,
Where'd he go?
I don't know, but hopefully he'll be back. I think he was on a cellular connection, so we'll see. But we're still broadcasting live as far as I can tell here, so we're okay.
Yeah, we are. Interesting.
All right, so let's see. So that's that's the Yoke token. The IDO coming on November 30th, and then on December 3rd at noon UTC is the actual launch of Yokai Swap itself. It says that the first trading pair there is going to be CKB 2 Yoke tokens, and it will have the highest incentive. So it could be an opportunity for anybody who's looking to trade something. I'm probably going to personally sit this one out because I don't really consider myself a trader, and I don't. Yeah, and I don't know how to properly to take advantage of that. To be honest, I haven't done very much of this the DeFi stuff at all. I should be. I'll admit that I definitely should be, but I have not, just because I've been so busy with other stuff.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I'll be
I
watching from the
dabble.
sidelines on it.
Yeah, I mean, I dabble. I consider myself just a kind of, I guess you could say, almost like a weekend warrior. Basically, just put it down for a while, pick it up. I do feel like there's some overlap, especially with NFTs, and there's a handful of platforms that are offering NFTs on their DEXs or creating their own portals to NFTs, or utilizing them even for different financial tools like issuing loans and borrowing and all that. So by default, I kind of fall in. I'm a degen cross platform in a way. So
Yeah. I have not gotten into a lot of this stuff, and because of it is purely a time based thing for the most part. It's when I invest in any project, I've typically done quite a bit of research on it. I've
Mhm.
researched the team, I've researched the technology, I've read white papers, in many cases I've started to just jump through the code a little bit there, just at a high
Mhm.
level to make sure I'm not seeing any red flags in terms of uh, of really copy and pasted poorly code, and that's worked very well for me uh, in terms of investment. But
Use
these
case.
yeah, yeah, it's when you start talking about these projects like the DeFi space, which moves so quickly. Like some of my friends who are into DeFi, they literally have like a new project like that they're telling me about, that they're saying they're investing in this like every single day, and
Yeah.
there's no way I can do that kind of research on this, and they're quite frankly uh, they're a little bit looser than I am with a lot of their stuff too. Like they're doing limited risk, well, high risk, limited investment on a bunch of stuff. Sometimes they're jumping into stuff with like anonymous developers that,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, this site just showed up like hours ago. Anonymous developers. It's got stolen graphics all over it, and I'm like, what are you guys doing?
True
And
degens.
yeah,
True degens.
and they've it's kind of wild to watch them trade on this stuff, because sometimes they're actually making like great money on these things, which did end up being rug pulls. Like the
Mhm.
eventually, like the guy did show up again, and he just, he yanked all the tokens out of the platform and shut the whole thing down and just ran off with money. But they were already out of it by that time. They had done their trading,
Mhm.
gotten their high rewards, and already pulled out. So they actually profited off of these things, which is kind of wild. Like me, I would never be able to do that. I would have completely just if I had put in money, I would have just lost it all because I wouldn't have been watching it. I'd go back to doing my other work, and then I'd show up a week later and say, "Oh, they rug pulled 3 days ago. Oh, that's great." That's how it would end up for me. So I'm totally out of that scene completely.
Yeah. Well, it'll be. I mean, for Yokai, I think being the Dex, as of right now, is gonna be huge. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see how much liquidity ends up, first getting put on just from people's wallets with CKB, but also heavily utilizing Force Bridge and getting acclimated to that and bringing some of those funds over to Nervos.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Let's see. So let's keep moving on here. We have our first general headline that we got to into, and this is a sad one, guys. We're going to start this out sad. Don't worry, we're not going to end the show this way, but we had to mention this because he was such a strong contributor to our community. Mr. Gox, the crypto investing hamster, has passed away. For those of you who are not familiar, Mr. Gox is a cryptocurrency trading hamster and Twitch streamer who operated from a tiny desk in a small cage out of Germany, and whose portfolio performance beat Warren Buffett at one point. He used to trade using this little wheel, a little hamster wheel called the intention wheel, which it would cycle through the possible trades that he would have, and then he had two tunnels marked, one marked buy and one marked sell, which controlled all of his actions, and it was all handled automatically through electronic switches that were live streaming on Twitch, so you could actually see what his trades were doing. And so
Oh my God! Are you for real? This was a thing.
Yes, yes, this is a completely real thing. Yeah,
I
they
had never heard of that. I would have watched that 24/7. Oh my God! Get all my signals from the hamster. Oh, that is sad.
yeah,
That's
and
sad.
from what I read, I believe that he actually had a portfolio performance of 20% or more, which actually puts him ahead of most stock traders in the industry.
Yeah. If you're in the green, you know what I mean? I think the rule of thumb is like, yeah, if you're up like at least 30%, you know, you did fine.
Yeah, so he passed away. I believe it was actually yesterday. Yesterday, I'm assuming Germany time, which could mean a little more than 24 hours ago. But he passed away in his sleep. Um,
How
hopefully,
long had they been doing that? Do you know?
I don't know exactly. I remember hearing about this quite some time ago, months ago.
I don't know
But
how I haven't heard of this. I follow memes all day. I'm really surprised. I haven't heard of that.
yeah, well, it's sad. The little guy is gone, but unfortunately for hamsters, their lifespan is only 2 to 3 years typically to
Yeah.
begin with. So it had to happen sooner or later. Let's see.
We salute you.
We salute you, Mr. Gox. So the next thing we got to talk about, though, big news. El Salvador in the news again. They are planning the first Bitcoin city, which is backed by Bitcoin bonds. Amir, did you hear anything about this? You had to have heard.
I caught a little bit of it because I also saw that there was like they're not gonna tax it at all or something like that too. I
Yeah,
might
yeah.
have missed some of. I know there was just a big conference and announcement, but
Yeah. So there was a big announcement from the president there, and he was of course a huge proponent of Bitcoin and been pushing it all over. So they're launching a city, an actual city in down there in El Salvador, where it's going to be it's bizarre. Like they're saying it's actually going to be circular city with a central plaza in the middle that's designed to look like a Bitcoin symbol from the sky.
wow, that's over the top. But okay, but
Yeah,
yeah, continue.
yeah. So it's also going to be they're using that nearby volcano to get 100% renewable geothermal power for the whole thing. Going to have Bitcoin miners there. It says that they're going to. I mean, they're really going all out on this. They're putting in residential and commercial areas, services, museums, entertainment, bars, restaurants, airport, port, rail, everything here to really build up. It sounds like they're building like a some kind of tourist plaza for the most part, and they're really
Yeah,
making it Bitcoin centric.
that's I find that interesting only because I mean if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but their economy and currency is pretty devalued, no?
I think that's probably the case. Yeah, I mean, El Salvador has not really been known as a vacation destination that I'm aware of, at least. I mean, if
Yeah,
anybody thinks differently, please drop a message here in the chat. But to the best of my knowledge, nobody's going really to El Salvador. I thought I heard that that's kind of a high crime area, not really the biggest tourist region.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's two parts of that that I find interesting. There's, obviously on the kind of adoption tech side, it's cool to see at least this attempt to build infrastructure, not only around cryptocurrencies, but like directly kind of infusing it into city infrastructure. Um, I think I find that really interesting and pretty cool on their point, on their part. And then I would also say, I would give them kudos for taking the risks on it as well. I mean, I'm sure it's going to bolster interest in visiting the country and whatnot, but I think, you know, any city or state or whatever that's taking these initiatives or trying to put rails in place for the movement and adoption of crypto, I think are ultimately going to end up being further ahead than so many other places, and if not possibly like you know um epicenters for like the developing culture. So
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that completely. I mean, it sounds like they're really going all out, and like you mentioned about the taxes too. There's supposed to be no taxes except for the value added tax, which is pretty typical. It's kind of like sales tax,
right.
but it's the construction is, I guess, stated to begin in 2022. So they're really pushing for that here, and I agree with you completely that this is in many ways this is symbolic, right? It's symbolic about what they're doing here, and it is also definitely something to try to get more tourism. At least in my opinion,
Yeah.
they want to be at the middle of this, right? If they think that this is going to be the next big thing, they want to be a superpower in the cryptocurrency industry. And I think they're doing an excellent job in positioning themselves to be there. So while there is risk here, I don't think there's ever been a better time in history for something like this to happen. So yeah, Mr. Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, more props to you. I think he's going to be very successful with this.
Yeah, yeah, it's continuing kind of the narrative in the space too of, you know, transfer of wealth in a way, you know, like being able to extract value in a way that hasn't existed before, and they're taking advantage of it because they really haven't had those opportunities. So
Yeah, absolutely. So right on the tail of that, though, so Bitcoin hit a new all-time high in Turkey as the fiat currency there, the lira, goes into free fall. So this is interesting. This happened just 2 days ago on November 23rd. It was confirmed that Bitcoin exceeded 700,000 Turkish lira per Bitcoin trading in the
whoa.
in the exchange there, which was an all-time high. And when you're comparing to Bitcoin, like these kinds of crazy swings going up and down is not really that unusual, right?
Right.
But when you look at it against the USD, which is largely believed to be one of the most stable price currencies in the world, between September and November, the Turkish lira lost as much as 40% of its value against the USD. So
Wow.
yeah, that is a massive drop for any currency. And that,
Wow.
yeah, that's so the headline there about it going to free fall. Yeah, that's no kidding. Yeah, it really tanked. And here's the crazy thing: is the president there, President Erdogan. I'm not sure how to pronounce his
Yeah,
name exactly.
Edgerton.
Yes, yeah. So they are unofficially battling a currency crisis there and trying to keep their interest rates low. And in September, President, he openly stated saying that we are in a war against Bitcoin. So
I mean, it's, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. Especially if your currency, you know, the value of it is, you know, completely dropping, and I'm sure that means everything that, you know, someone interacts with their daily life, whether they're getting food or supplies, are now also going up in value. And you know what can they do? You know, they're putting their money into something that is going to be a little bit, you know, they're hedging it, you know, against the currency, because they can go ahead and pull it out of that ecosystem and right into Bitcoin.
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, like I can see from his standpoint, he sees it as competition, and so do a lot of other leaders. I personally think that competition is good, and that when you're enforcing these things as a more or less a monopoly on your people, that's when the danger really happens. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not Bitcoin causing the Turkish lira to tank in value. I mean, it obviously something is going on in that country. I mean, and we know the history of fiat currencies. There have been thousands throughout history of mankind, and pretty much all of them fail over time. And we
Mm-hmm.
only have a couple here. Like the USD is doing pretty darn well in its run here, but it's also lost probably, I believe, over 99% of its value by now. And
Yeah,
that's
and I mean,
yeah.
are we having issues too with
Oh,
inflation right now?
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a no brainer because of the printing of money that happened because of the pandemic. It's been the last time I heard an estimate was it was around 25%. Um,
Oh yeah.
that was introduced. The money supply grew by 25%, and I'm sure it's higher than that now. That's the thing. Like it's still going on. We got that massive $3 trillion infrastructure bill that nobody in the government has read. We don't know what's in the thing that they've
Right.
got. Right? You know, it's being shoved through. Where do you think that $3 trillion is coming from? Nobody has that. They're saying they're going to
Yeah.
tax Bitcoin or tax cryptocurrency holders for something. It's not coming from that. It's being printed out of thin air. That's the
Yep.
place it always comes from, and that's
Mr. Powell running the
exactly,
money printer.
exactly. And so yeah, that's it's
Oh, I see Six Fig. He's
Oh, is he back?
he's in. He can't jump in for some reason, but he's here.
What?
He's in the crowd.
Oh yeah, we see you out there, Six Fig. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully you can find a way back in here. Um, let's see, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So there was also one related headline, which I'm not going to go into, but in the United States, a key measure of inflation rose to a 31-year high in October. So we're definitely seeing some inflation, and like I'm personally seeing it just out in the wild, out in the grocery store, where
hmm
the items I used to buy, they're no longer as big as they used to be. Or me and my girlfriend, we try to be as healthy as possible, so we actually read through the ingredients on everything that we purchase, and we're noticing the ingredients getting cheaper. We're seeing products that used to be high quality cheapen their ingredients. The size, like we said, is going down. Some are raising in price, but yeah, it's going. Everything is going, and some products that we really loved are just outright disappearing. So it's a real bummer.
Yeah, yeah. That all ties into with supply chain and all that. So yeah, we're in a sticky economic situation outside of, I guess, crypto space, which is, full on bull run still. So
Yeah. And so this rolls right into our next headline here, which is related to all of this. Hillary Clinton in the news again, warning that cryptocurrency could destabilize nations and undermine the dollar as the world's reserve currency. So there was a panel discussion at the Bloomberg New Economy Forum in Singapore, where Hillary Clinton she was either there or maybe she was on video. I'm not sure. I saw or the broadcast of that, and she pretty much outright said that she's not a fan of cryptocurrency in any way. And her exact quote is this: "What looks like a very interesting and somewhat exotic effort to literally mine new coins in order to trade with them has the potential for undermining currencies, for undermining the role of the dollar as the reserve currency, for destabilizing nations, perhaps starting with small ones, but going much larger."
yeah, she's just worried about her bank account. To be honest, like that's all I hear. And I love that she used the word exotic. But all you can, what I could extract from there is that, you know, the real fear that, um, governments, internationally, not just in our country, are, at the center of a lot of, how we operate as, our economy and, our currency. And if they're feeling threatened by what's happening in this space, which literally anybody can be their own bank, anyone can create their own currency, anyone can build their own infrastructure, you kind of start to lose the need for, the pre-existing one. I think ultimately, what will happen or what we'd like to see happen is like integration and adoption, right? But it's the old guard and fear of what they don't understand. So
Right. And we also saw similar quotes from Donald Trump while he was president. He said that, "I don't want any other currencies coming out and hurting or demeaning the dollar in any way." And then a little more recently, or let's see, actually it was July of last year, so 2020, Goldman Sachs came out and said that there are real concerns around the longevity of the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency, and these changes have started to emerge. So it's pretty clear now. Whenever a politician actually acknowledges something, you know that this is something that is completely out in the open now. Like they
hmm
can't even deny it anymore, right? It's
hmm
beyond the phase of denial.
yeah,
So
those conversations are happening in back rooms, and now they're, like you said, they're out in the open. And I mean, yeah, again, I think there's just fear from people that already have plenty of US dollars are worried that their US dollars are going to turn into funny money. So, which could be likely at some point, maybe, but who knows? Yeah, it makes sense where the fear lies. So
Right, right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's more just they're concerned. They do have genuine concerns, I'm sure, as well, mixed with their own personal interests, of course, about what could happen when there's some destabilization. I mean, this is the way that things have been for quite some time. The U.S. dollar has been the reserve, and it was the reserve because it was used to be backed by gold. That's why so many countries decided to kind of to circle around this thing and why they made it the reserve in the first place. And then when they took away the gold as the backing, all of a sudden it doesn't make sense anymore, and it's actually ends up being kind of like a tax on whoever is using it. And so when these
yeah.
other countries are buying into the United States dollar, they're losing money here on this kind of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really a bad angle for them. And there's all kinds of things that just can go on with this in the long term when you talk about the potential, like what happens when a global currency becomes unstable, when it starts losing value. I mean, this is bad for the entire world, right? Everybody's losing
Right.
value here. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of slowly falling. So I mean, I see Bitcoin and any cryptocurrency really as being an alternative to this, and that's where I think the power is. That's my personal opinion on why I'm in this industry, is because I want there to be alternatives. Like
Mm-hmm.
if the U.S. dollar was completely stable and still backed by gold, there'd be real no use for cryptocurrency really. I mean, there'd be
Right.
down the line definitely blockchain absolutely still has a use, and possibly utility tokens of some sort will have possibly value in the future, and the NFTs and things. But when you talk about just a plain old cryptocurrency, it doesn't really
Mm-hmm.
have a purpose. Like if the US dollar was perfectly stable and and like why would you use cryptocurrency for the most part? Like it already has if it was actually doing what we thought it was supposed to do, we wouldn't really need cryptocurrency. And I personally would be using dollars for everything, but that's not the case with me anymore. I use dollars because I have to, and
Mm-hmm.
I spend my dollars. I hoard my cryptocurrency. Like
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Exactly.
that's how it is with
I
all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could literally look at my portfolio or wallet and be like, huh, much different number than what I have USD, which is, to some degree is, you know, that's just how it's worked out. Um, but I mean, I personally think that, um, I don't know. I think that even if there was backing on gold on that standard, I mean, I think ultimately the technology of just being able to send transactions without the intermediary figure, is like a big key for me, or like that was something I learned early on that really blew me away. Um, just because I'm a big sci-fi nerd too, so just like digital currency, just yeah. But anyway, I see, but I see what you mean though, in terms of the fear that they would have of depegging.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's going to be advancements in technology of transferring value, money, and just fiat currency, digital currencies. Digital fiat is also going to come out with the central bank digital currencies as well. And I mean, we're going to see, fortunately, some good competition there. I think. I mean, when you're talking about the intermediaries and everything, that's still going to be there. But I mean, if you use something like services like Zelle, it's more or less free. It's
Yeah.
just it's just in my experience has been completely unreliable, unfortunately. Like I can't get the damn things to work properly. Like it
Really?
seems like yeah, the thing seems like they're down every time I want to use it. They're undergoing maintenance. It's the most bizarre thing.
It
I mean, like,
is.
and I don't know if you had to send money abroad, but it is just perplexing on how to make this happen. Sometimes there's on certain countries, it is just hard to get money over there, and you have to go
Yeah.
through all this KYC stuff to do it. Just to send a couple $100, like I'm spending like a half an hour trying to verify myself, and sometimes it doesn't
Yep.
even like work. Like it's the most
It's an
bureaucratic.
arduous process.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the efficiencies there that I think you're really talking about, getting the middleman out. And I mean, that's a big point for cryptocurrency, and that's something. Yeah, I share your belief there. That's something that's going to push it forward. They've made it so uncompetitive in the fiat market and the fiat systems that anybody who really wants to get stuff done is now just gravitating away from it. We have these
Hmm.
huge usability problems still in cryptocurrency, but even with that, we're starting to exceed the traditional system in terms of efficiency and usability.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, did you see in the chat someone, I don't know, do we have more headlines we're going through? Did you want to like answer a
Oh,
question or
well,
two?
let's take a question or two. Definitely, there's something out there. Did you see something? I'm hopping back and forth between two different windows here, so I didn't see it.
No worries. Well, no, one person asks, it's Arcade Fan, where do you see CKB in 5 years?
Where do I see CKB in 5 years? Well, I mean, it's really hard to say, but I mean, the what we're trying to do is to increase different areas of market share kind of systematically, right? So DeFi is the first one that we're going into. You're seeing the emergence of that happening on December 3rd, right? Yokai swap will finally be out, and we're hoping to get some traction on that. And there will be others, right? There's other teams that are building various things that have not been released yet. So that's a big push for us, probably for the next, I would say, 12 to 18 months. And in terms of like what makes a platform successful for DeFi? Well, a lot of different things. Usability and the interoperability is a major thing for sure, because that that enables more audiences to be able to be reached very easily with hopefully the same software and not too many different changes. Like we're trying our best here to support as many wallets as possible. And then another big aspect of that is, so now you're connected to all these different chains. Like, what makes people want to use it? Well, it's transaction fees. I mean, that's always a big differentiator between the different platforms. When you're looking, like, even if you use a wallet like MetaMask, which has built into it the exchange functionality. And that's a huge revenue generator for them, by the way, is just being able to have that in the wallet. A lot of people use that, and part of that functionality is it asks you which source do you want to actually go through, right? What's the route here to do the actual transfers, and it just basically has pricing that shows this is the current price of this one, this is the current price of that one. Well, I can pretty much guarantee that everybody is going for one of the lower ones in the exchange there, right? They're not going to pay a lot more money than they have to to get their exchange. And so over time, Nervos is going to be a part of that. They're going to be integrated into these systems where they can provide liquidity and provide exchange. And because the fees on Nervos our economics are so different, we're going to be able to maintain low fees much better than many of these other platforms there. So it's really just a kind of a play toward automation, if you want to call it, towards this liquidity freeway that we're basically putting together. Is Nervos is going to be included in that, and they're going to be selected by default because they're going to be one of the lowest prices available. So I can't say exactly when all of this is coming, of course, because this stuff does take a very long time to build. But I'd say that's a big part of the efforts that are going to be happening over the next 5 years, along with big pushes into NFTs and possibly gaming down the line. I mean, Amir, do you have any information on that you can share?
We're very much so kind of early in our ecosystem of NFTs, just similar to how the DEX is launching. We just launched our first marketplace, Collect, and we have some things coming down the line that we will be aligning with esports, hopefully some gaming, GameFi style projects, but I think as the NFT space continues to grow, and especially with people that will want to move away from chains like Ethereum where the fees are extremely high, they'll come to see that not only will building be much much easier, but also there will be more possibilities for these teams to develop really interesting products. And yeah, I think everyone should just stay tuned going into next year. We have a few announcements that will be coming that I think will shed light on our direction.
Yeah, so I see a bunch of questions here rolling about announcements and stuff, and I usually start the show by basically saying that we can't tell you about exchanges, guys. That's confidential information, usually by the exchange itself. When are we going to be on Coinbase? I don't know. Coinbase knows that. You can ask them. I mean, and they're not going to tell you, unfortunately, because that is confidential information. That's, of course, you want to know ahead of everybody else. So everybody wants to know when something's coming out on an exchange. Nobody knows that. That is confidential information. So anyway, guys, if you go out there and you start messaging Coinbase saying, "Hey, you need to add Nervos, you need to add CKB," that might have an effect on them, though. There's always that possibility, but they're not going to tell you. That's just the way it runs. And then as far as our announcements, like it's kind of like things are announced when they're announced. Like unfortunately, we are not in control of the marketing department and what they decide to release or not release. So we unfortunately can't really tell too much to you guys. Believe me, I would love to have something I could share with you on the announcements, but we can't really do too much of that. We can't let the cat out of the bag on that one, or else we would be in trouble on some of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, are there any other questions in here? That might be... No, I think that... Yeah, no, I don't see any other questions unless maybe some pop up.
All right, so yeah, we'll just keep watching for those. But yeah, sorry guys, on the announcements, I really wish we could share more, but we don't always have an update that we're able to share, if we know it all. I mean, sometimes it's pretty common that actually when something pops up on the Nervos Twitter account, some brand new announcement, oftentimes that's the first time I'm seeing it as well too. And that's just because there's so much stuff rolling through our ecosystem constantly that I cannot keep up with it. Yeah, I mean, there's actually been several times just in inter department meetings and stuff where actually like I ask a question, I'm like, when is this happening or that happening, and then like one of my coworkers says, "Oh, that's happening, on this date." Actually, you just sent that to me, Jordan. You sent that in an email to me telling me that was going to happen. It's like, and I was like, I can't even remember it at all. It's just because there's so much stuff moving all the time.
Yeah. It's gonna, I think, for everyone listening, going into Q1 next year, there'll be a lot of activity, a lot more activity than what we've seen kind of going through Q4, which is really exciting. But I saw, let's see, someone asked a question about Yokai, and I kind of mentioned something earlier about Yokai, but I think for the Novus community itself, it'll be a huge deal because there's this opportunity to, access more of the overall market. Not only just to trade CKB, but to actively trade other currencies, especially with the force bridge being in place. So you can bring over a wrapped asset, wrapped ERC20 token, and be able to trade and send it back if you need to. But I know these tools have become more and more important since people don't want to use necessarily like Coinbase or whatever other centralized exchanges there are. And DEXs have just a huge value add to activity in the space. It's not just relying on that third party. It's just the users interacting with the interface, and that's it basically. So I'm excited. I'm excited to use it, give it a shot. I actively use like Sushi, Uni. I've tried some other dexes like Trader Joe on Avalanche. What else have I tried? I've tried a few. I definitely have tried out DeFi tools, and I think giving tools like that to the retail user in general, outside of the more experienced trader, is really cool, and it's going to be good for our community to be able to use that as well and bring interest to the chain itself.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And in NFTs and stuff like that too. I mean, I think that that's going to continue to be something that really continues to change the way that we interact with a lot of different things, including just games that are starting to adopt this. And absolutely, in the collector space, it's going to continue to be a big part of that. And what the one thing that's really interesting to me is that we have not seen NFTs that are truly low cost yet, because we know that Ethereum's still dominating that market for the most part, and their platform. I don't know what it costs to mint an NFT these days. I know it's
It's
probably more.
expensive. I would say cheapest, maybe if you're lucky on a given day, like $80-$90, and I would say average right now maybe $150 or more, depending on the day.
Yeah,
It's pretty absurd. Even for trading, it's like if I want to send you 0.1 Ethereum, it's going to cost me 0.3 to or 0.03 to send it. You know, it's like it's it's costly.
yeah, and that's one of those where the platform itself, if it's more of a centralized chain, then that cost goes down, of course, right? And so there's a couple chains out there that are pretty low cost for NFTs, but you don't really own it. If it's on a centralized chain, that's something that you really can't rely on for the future, really, of what we hope NFTs will be. So
Yeah.
Nervos provides, I think, a really good balance there of it is a truly decentralized chain. And because they've made that distinction between state rent and transaction fees, that keeps the transaction fees very, very low. And that will change a lot of the way that NFTs are really used in the future, because
Yep.
the incentives are put in place there in a way that it makes sense that you can have these NFTs that they cost less than 10 cents to mint or something, or in costs that are actually non-refundable. Like there's always, of course, the state rent that has to be paid, but that's something where, again, the incentives are put in place that if this NFT truly has no value, you should be removing it from the chain. It should be You should be taking that off. In which case, you get your deposit back. That's a way that
Mm-hmm.
makes real sense with NFTs, because on Ethereum especially, they have this problem of their smart contracts never removing any data of the chain, so that their state is getting is kind of bloating out of control.
Right.
Yeah,
That
and
makes sense. I see.
that's
Yeah.
that's part of the reason the costs are increasing here. It's like nothing's going to be free. And so when you're talking about a chain where people are just dumping this data on there, and this data has to be replicated to all the nodes on the chain, yeah, that's increasing costs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Vitalik has said it himself that he actually is there's a mechanism in there where if you remove data from the chain, you actually get some gas refunds. And so there is a way of getting that back, but nobody's actually using it for whatever reason. Developers are not using that, and they were
It's
talking
probably
about
because of the
removing it.
speed of things, you know? Like everything moves so fast, you know, the opportunities people aren't, maybe they're just not taking the time to even to do that. Who knows?
Yeah, it's certain things or implementations are difficult. I mean, that's going to be a big challenge for the Ethereum community, is just to get their technology to catch up with a lot of these innovations that are actually happening in other chains. Because once you have your chain up and running, it's really hard to go back to the drawing board on certain things without disrupting the entire system again.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So we're running pretty low on time here, but I think we probably have time just to end on a couple things that are a little bit more pleasant before we wrap up here. Um, I just wanted to mention that let's see, every year, so the Pentagon and the United States sends Thanksgiving dinners to all the troops around the world. I mean, this is something that's been going on for a pretty long time. They send turkey and other supplies to troop stations around the world so they can have a traditional Thanksgiving meal abroad. And so this year they sent 400,000 pounds of Thanksgiving dinner Yeah, I know that's quite a bit. That was here. You got to listen to what this constitutes. It's 60,000 pounds of roasted turkey, which is 5,706 whole turkeys which were shipped out, and that it doesn't even end there. It's like there's some crazy numbers in here. 99,000 pounds of beef, 52,000 pounds of hams, 44,000 pounds of shrimp, 38,000 pounds of sweet potatoes, 68,000 pounds of pies and cakes, and then 23,000 gallons of eggnog.
I would have loved to have just seen this all in the warehouse, just to visualize how
Yeah, I
much
know.
food
Yeah,
that is.
that's hard to. You can't even like picture these numbers. But 23,000 gallons of eggnog, that is approximately 2 swimming pools, like the kind of swimming pool that you would have in a house, a typical house. I think it
Yeah,
was like maybe one and a half or 2 swimming pools full of eggnog.
that's insane. Oh my god.
Yeah, and then something like let's see, what was it? 44,000 pounds of shrimp. Shrimp? Is that a typical Thanksgiving meal?
Not that I know of, though I love shrimp, so I would not be upset. So, yeah. What is this? Oh, Rootlicious asked the question. What if I wonder if Nervos will have a role in metaverse with interoperability? Shouldn't that play a big role in the metaverse? Well, uh, I would think I think we do have interests in how we can bring our tooling to the metaverse. And I do agree it is going to be a key thing moving forward, being able to have access to these other worlds, these other assets, um, whatever other tools that might pop up in game, or if there's some kind of game mechanic that only exists on one chain, but the game has connection to another partner, and there's another aspect of that. Yeah, you're going to want to be able to bring those assets, NFTs, over cross chain. So I do think interoperability is going to also be big in the metaverse, and I do think we are having discussions about it. I think it is a very it's really interesting time for that to kind of pop up. It's been years coming, but it's also going to be a long-term thing. I don't think we're in a complete rush. I think it won't get to the point that I think we're imagining, not till years and years from now.
Yeah, I agree that the metaverse thing is something that's going to be ongoing for potentially decades. Like we know that Facebook's making a move, but they're not making a move for the hype thing that's going to pump and dump within the next 24 months, right? Like this is a long-term play for them. They
Mm-hmm.
they really think that they're making a move here for the future, for to change the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I'm too comfortable with Zuckerberg being at the helm of that, but I think there will be some good and bad that comes from that. But more or less, it being an inevitable. If Zuckerberg didn't do it, somebody else would have done something similar. The only
He's Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying the only thing that I am really concerned about with all of these big companies coming in is that they're going to start doing some kind of siloing of the environments where like I'm sure there'll be these walled gardens, especially initially, where you're kind of in one or the other. But
Yeah.
that's where I really hope that some of these projects, these open source projects that are trying to build more neutral systems, will come into play and give an alternative to the
Yeah.
walled gardens. And that's
Yeah.
really, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just gonna say,
Just going.
if anything, Zuckerberg's just a marker or a flag, really. I don't think it'll be complete domination, or that he's leading the way. I think people have already been building those things, and I think if there's one thing about the industry and space as a whole, is there's a lot of credibility for already kind of pre-existing and building in the space, and keeping things open source and keeping things community oriented, to the point that there's, I mean, ultimately these institutions are wanting to get into the game, right? They're wanting to knock on the door and get in. People have already, they haven't needed that, so I think he's just a marker. But I think I agree with you. Otherwise,
Yeah. So it definitely, like, I hope that the neutral platforms start to emerge, that they're able to compete with the big guys, and at least in the long term. And also, along with that, NFTs I see as being a huge play towards that interoperability, towards those are alternatives, because again comes down to what is ownership, how is it represented in these different worlds, especially when you're talking about an entity like Facebook and Google, where they love to own everything, right? This
Yep.
has to be a push by the people to say, like, you have to support NFTs to represent ownership, and you have to do it in a way that is transferable, interoperable between these different worlds. And that's something that's a fight for the future. Hopefully it won't be too big of one. But like, we don't want to see a monopoly on any platform. There needs to be that competition. There needs to be openness, especially around things like NFTs. And that's, I mean, you could say that is an unofficial part of what Nervos is about. It is that we want to position ourselves as that interoperability platform, a truly decentralized and neutral platform. And we also want to have a big presence in NFTs, and we have certain traits about our chain that make it a unique and good fit for representing ownership on any blockchain.
Agreed.
All right, so let's see. I think we're just about out of time. We could probably do this last headline here. That is a pretty short one, a Thanksgiving headline, just a good one to end on here. So Google, speaking of the big companies here, Google has shared a popular Thanksgiving casserole dish searches by US states. So what they did here is they looked at their data, which, like I just said, these guys are all over your data, right? So they looked at what were people actually searching for, recipes that people were searching for on different holiday Thanksgiving casserole dishes, and broke it down by state. And it's really pretty interesting here, because like a lot of these were pretty common stuff, right? What's the most common one? It's green bean casserole along all the western states. I mean, I personally, I love green bean casserole. Is that an East Coast thing too? Amir, you're East Coast, right?
I mean, I think it kind of definitely spans the whole country. I mean, even in the Midwest, I know that's a fairly popular dish on Thanksgiving. I didn't realize it was so continental, if you will.
Yeah, and there's some other ones in here that were pretty unique though. So it's like, so California, the number one search one was actually Mexican corn casserole, which was really surprising to me because I've never heard of Mexican corn casserole. Have you ever had that, Amir?
No, never heard of corn casserole.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that one.
Interesting.
And then Wisconsin had a strange one, cheesy hash brown casserole. It sounds
I'm gonna be
delicious.
honest. Okay, to me, that is, I would literally have to be in another room
Really,
with a dish
really.
like that. I'm not. Cheese is like not a thing that I'm too into, but just like now, I have a visual picture of this cheesy casserole in my head that I will probably have nightmares about tonight. So
All right. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. To each of their own. Casseroles are not really known for being the prettiest dish. I will give you that. And they typically don't
yeah,
look good. And then North Carolina with a bizarre one, pineapple casserole.
pineapple.
Again, yeah, something I mean, it's probably good, but I have never heard of this before, and
Where is
especially as
this
a
again?
Thanksgiving, North Carolina.
Huh. I mean, that does actually sound pretty good with pineapple.
And
That
then
that's
yeah, and
great.
then Virginia, the strangest one. At least I thought French toast casserole. I mean, it
I
sounds It sounds good. This is like it probably is amazing, but I've never
Yeah.
heard of it, and I've never heard of it specifically for Thanksgiving. I wouldn't exactly
No.
cause that the
N-
French toast in
n-
a cat.
Yeah, never have I ever. I would have expected Virginia something like seafood oriented, like a crab casserole or like, something like that. Not French toast. That might take the cake actually.
Yeah. So anyway, you guys, if you're interested in that it was a recent thing, you can just search out there for the Google shares popular Thanksgiving casserole dishes. Most of it's pretty down the line, right? A lot of sweet potato, a lot of green beans, and I'm looking forward to having a bunch of that later today. Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
I know we're definitely having some green bean casserole. That's one of my favorite dishes. Um,
That's great.
yeah, I'm interested in this French toast one though. This might come up for Christmas dinner. We'll see about that.
I'm gonna have to look up a picture of it.
All right, but anyway, I'm pretty sure we're out of time now. We're way over. We started late, so we decided to purposely go over. But yeah, thanks to all you guys for listening, and thanks to Six Fig for hosting this, even though he got rugged from his own thing and kind of disappeared here. We'll have to have you on again if you're still out there. Six Fig, we will have you on again at some point. We appreciate you bailing us out today since we couldn't get into the Nervos account because everybody was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that, Six Fig, but yeah, thanks. But it is a thing, either you're rugged or doing the rugging. So
Yeah, and yeah, thanks to Six Fig again, and to you, Amir, for being here on a Thanksgiving. Pretty much the entire team is off today, everybody in the United States, but we decided we wanted to jump on and give a hello to everybody. If you're in the United States, happy Thanksgiving to you. If you're not in the United States, I guess happy Thursday to you. But either way, thanks for listening, and we will be back next week.
thanks, guys. Have a good one. Happy
All right,
Thanksgiving.
thanks everybody.